back to Life Curious Women, and welcome to part 3 of your Easeful Year-End Series. I'm so excited. We finally made it. And if you're new and you're just hopping in, you need to go back and listen to part 1 and 2 so that part 3 makes sense. But basically what we've been doing is I created a workbook that goes alongside these episodes. It's divided into 3 sections as well. And we are working through the workbook together. So we are talking about all of the different parts, what's important, how to navigate this workbook. And so if you're new here, you can go and download that workbook right now. It's in our show notes. It's completely free, and you can go back and listen to the episodes. But if you're not, if you have been here with us, if you are working the workbook, even if you're not, if you're just listening to the series, I am so excited that we're finally here. I think this might be my favorite part of this whole entire series because I get really excited about planning, about thinking about the future, about thinking about the new year. Like, this always has been really exciting for me. And I think that to do it in this way, where I'm thinking much more about how I want to feel and my values and like things that are going to help with my decision making throughout the year, so that I align with my goals, so that I align with my authenticity, it feels just different. And that's exactly why I created this series, was because I have always felt that like we end the year and it's like go go go. It's like, let's rush into the new year, let's create all these unrealistic goals, let's like tally all of our things. And if, like, let's say your year wasn't great, or if it was a really hard year, like, that's not always helpful to just sit there and be like, well, what did I accomplish? Because it's so much more than that, right? Like, every year serves a purpose and it's here to teach us something. And whether or not your year was like the best year you've ever had, a average year, or maybe it was a hard year, like, it serves a purpose in your plot line. I've realized that I don't align so much with a lot of the end of year exercises that are out there. So I hope that you've been feeling that. I hope that if you have been working through this, that you've been feeling like it's been supportive for your nervous system, that, it's felt very like connecting and very grounding. That is the point of it, is to be able to really reflect on, like, more so, what are you feeling? What is working? Who do you want to keep around? What behaviors? And now we can kind of reimagine what that looks like in the new year. So I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm glad you're doing this with us. I'm so grateful that you've taken some time to reflect and to connect with yourself, because your future self will thank you. And this can be done at any time. So I just hope that it's supportive enough to ground you in who you are and really support you in that way. Okay, so in part 1, we reflected, right? We thought about what actually happened this year in a non-judgmental way, in an objective way. We just reflected. We just looked at the year. And I hope that was helpful for you as much as it was for me, because I realized throughout those exercises that, like, I had forgotten a lot about things that had happened throughout the year. In part 2, we released. So we didn't just burn everything to the ground, but we did think about what's serving us, what's not serving us, and what we want to move forward with, and then say goodbye to the things that aren't serving us. I know I have a lot to say goodbye to that I'm still working through. And, particularly, I've said this countless times, but just around how I view rest. And let me tell you, it is a journey. It is a journey. Like, I struggle with this weekly, and there are weeks where I feel like I'm giving myself rest and I'm making so much progress and I don't feel guilty and I'm being very like giving to myself. And then there's weeks when I'm like, oh, you know what? Like, I need to do this and I need to do that. And suddenly I'm like really overwhelmed and stressed out. And I'm like, why? It's just really interesting how much things that are ingrained in keeping you safe, or your brain thinking that it keeps you safe, how much undoing that is. If you're watching, you can see behind me, I have a sign that is on the wall in my little podcast recording office area that says much to be done and undone. And I just love that quote because it's so true. Like, there's just so much to be done and there's so much to be undone. And it's a journey. And of course, we reflected, we did the prompts, and now you have awareness around maybe things that are serving you and maybe things that aren't. And the journey is now letting go and giving yourself grace when you fall back into those patterns. And so today we are reimagining what comes next. That is the next phase. And so before we even dive into all of this, I just want to say this is not a new year, new you episode. I just have to get that clear. Like, that is not the energy. We're not here to be like, okay, guys, you've let go of everything last week. So now you're a new person. And this is the goals. And these are the long laundry list things that we're not going to do in the new year. Like, no, this is a journey. Like I just said, it'll ebb and flow. But the goal of today is get closer to the version of you that already exists. I'm going to say that again. The goal of today is to get closer to the version of you that already exists. Yeah, let that sink in. It's the person that wants more peace. It's the person that wants more alignment, more breath in your life, excitement, play, all of those things. You want it because some version of you has that already. And I think, of course, traditional goal setting is important. Obviously, there's so much data around setting yourself up for success and actually creating smart, quote unquote, smart goals and having benchmarks to be striving towards. I'm not here to knock that. I'm that girl. Trust me, I am that girly. Like, I'm all about goals. I'm all about goal setting and keeping a clear vision for sure. And I think what today will do and what this section of the workbook will do for you is help gain clarity on how that feels, how what you want feels, how that version of yourself feels, and what values you are trying to align yourself with, and how to ensure that you stay connected to all of that. So whether or not you are working through the workbook, you've either done it already or you haven't done it already, or you are just listening to this series, all good. It doesn't matter. You can still listen to this episode, think about it, reflect on it, and journal about it separately if you want. But this episode can stand on its own. Okay, let's begin. So before we talk about goals, intentions, all the things, I want you to sort of drop into your body a little bit, get out of your head. If hopefully you are not driving, so don't do this if you are. But if you can, close your eyes, soften your gaze if you're walking. I want you to take a deep, slow breath in through your nose, a long exhale through your mouth. Now, I want you to imagine the most peaceful version of yourself 1 year from now. Not the most impressive, not the busiest, not the most productive, the most peaceful. What is she feeling in her body? What is she protecting her energy from? What does her day feel like? And just notice what comes up. This is important because easeful goal setting really does start in the body, not in the brain. A lot of manifestation starts in the body. When you can feel what that version of you feels like, not only does it feel like magic, I think it puts things into perspective. I think that a lot of times we only think about material things, or we only think about if I get that thing, if I get the promotion, if I whatever, get the money. But what is that connected to? What values are those things connected to? I think that is a lot of what I'm reflecting on now. Is, of course, there are material things I want, but I also just want to feel like at peace. I really want to have spaciousness in my schedule. I really want to feel aligned with the work that I'm doing. I want to rest when I want to rest. And so when you can start to really understand what you want to feel in that version of yourself, you will understand the why behind the material things that you want. When I envision the highest, most dreamiest life, there are certain things that like really light me up. It's interesting to then be able to look on all of the things you want and be like, what are these things connected to, and like how does that feel? And so I think it's important to start there first. Okay, so part 1 of the workbook, it is our future self check-in. I want you to journal thoughtfully on these questions here. I'm going to read them to you. If you're just listening, you can just keep them in mind. So, what does my dream life or my dream next year feel like? What does ease mean to me? What rhythms, not routines, am I craving? What is the energy I want to embody more often? So, like I've been saying, most of us set goals based on what we think we should want, and not so much what feels good, what feels aligned. Sometimes we do. I think sometimes we think certain things are aligned. But I think instead of asking yourself, like, what is the checklist? What do I want to achieve next year? I really want you to think a little bit like softer. And that's why I say, what is the dreamiest, most beautiful next year feel like? Because it's almost like reverse engineering. Then, like, if you know exactly how it feels in your body, you can kind of reverse engineer to your goals and be like, well, I don't know if that's going to get me there. And it makes you question things and makes you ask the hard questions of what doesn't fit there anymore, right? Like maybe you think you need or want something that actually doesn't contribute to how you actually want to feel. So asking those questions are going to give you more clarity on what actually matters. And I think, as you've probably noticed, a lot of what I've embedded into this series is based on my own experience over this last year of understanding that achievement and checklists and going and pushing through even when something doesn't feel aligned just isn't sustainable for me anymore. And so I'm realizing that a lot of in this new energy, in this reflection, that like I've still been able to progress with my goals and I've still been able to accomplish a lot. And in fact, I feel like in some ways I've really up leveled since last year. And last year I felt like I had up leveled. And I felt I was operating from a much different place last year. And so, yeah, I think that that's why so much of this is rooted in easefulness and in, well, how do you want to feel? And I just want to like drive home that like when I say easefulness, it doesn't mean laziness. It doesn't mean, like don't create goals, just like whatever. Like, no, it means sustainability. It's not just like pushing through. And so for me, I think that like I thought I wanted ease, but like didn't really know how to get there. It felt scary. It still feels scary oftentimes because a lot of times ease feels like I'm not trying hard enough. Even when things in my life seem to like manifest pretty easily, I feel like, well, I didn't earn it almost, but I'm working on creating a connection in my nervous system between easefulness and safety. It's the hard part. And I can imagine that a lot of you feel the same way. When I talk about it online, it seems like a lot of people relate, especially if you're neurodivergent. I feel like it's like embedded in you, as if you, for me anyways, as an ADHDer. So I really want to talk about like rhythms over routines. And that's really important because I think that routines are really rigid. I think there's a lot of room to be harsh towards yourself. But I think rhythms are so much more in line with what life really feels like, right? Like it's much more responsive, it's much more flexible. I think about the ADHD series I did, and I talked a little bit about in there how the goal is not consistency. The goal is being persistent. So it's persistence over consistency. Because I think as humans, like things happen, right? Yeah, sure. You can listen to a lot of these productivity gurus, consistency, this, that, like, yeah, great. That doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't work for me. And I have realized that, like, when I come from a place of I just want to be persistent, in other words, rhythms, right? Like in the flow, that works so much better for me, for my mental health, for me actually continuing, because what my brain does is, oh, I broke the consistency, so now I just need to stop altogether. which isn't helpful. And so what does a rhythm look like? What does this idea of a rhythm look like? It looks like moving your body a few times a week. Maybe it's not every morning at 6 a.m. Maybe it's having a bare minimum. Maybe it's starting with one time a week and then building your way up. But it's finding your own rhythm. It's leaning into that over a concrete routine and structure and da-da-da-da-da. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm not feeling so great today, so I'm going to pull some things off my plate. And that's okay. And then on the days you feel better, you put more on your plate. That's something I've been learning, is working with myself, working with my cycle, knowing that I'm not always going to be this like productivity bunny. And there are some days that I can like bang out a million things. And then there are some days that I'm like, I need to do the bare minimum this week. Rhythms look like resting before you're completely exhausted and depleted. It's maybe scheduling rest. And maybe rest looks like doing nothing on your couch. Maybe rest looks like planning a really fun thing to do that feeds your inner child that week that you never do because you're too, quote unquote, too busy. That is what I'm talking about. These rhythms, right? Okay. This is, I think, one of my favorite parts of this third section is we're going to talk all about your values. And so, like I was mentioning earlier in the episode, I think that like when you get so clear on your values, your goals they just come secondary to that. Because if your goals are not connected to a value, to how you want to feel, to like something that's important to you, then like, number one, I think you're less likely to accomplish that thing. And or two, that if you do accomplish the thing, it's not going to feel aligned. And so we want to feel aligned, right? And I think that like maybe you don't even know what your goals are next year, but starting here will help uncover those things. I think that this is going to be the most important piece in this section. I think that like this is probably the number one thing I would change about setting goals, is like doing this first before being like, let me set my goals. And I honestly haven't done much work on this previously. Like I didn't really think about values when I was doing goal setting every year. It was just like, okay, gotta pull out the things that I think I'm supposed to want or do, or like yada yada, with no substance behind it, no fuel. I think that when you get really clear, your decisions just become easier, right? Not aligned, not gonna do it. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop wavering on like, is this right? Is this the right decision? Because you start to realize that everything you need to know is inside of you. It's how you feel. And anything that isn't aligned will feel wrong. And when you're clear on your values, you're going to see those moments with so much more clarity. So instead of asking, what do I want to accomplish? We are asking, what kind of woman do I want to be while I'm living my life? So, for example, one of my number one values, I know going into the new year, is freedom. Like that is one big one for me. That's creating freedom, financial freedom. Like there's that is connected to so much of how I want to feel. I don't want to continue to say yes to things that wreck my body. I don't want to, overcommit. I want to choose slowing down, because I've already proven to myself that slowing down doesn't prevent me from accomplishing. In fact, I think that it's aligning me with what's right for me even deeper. Okay, so I know this is going to be hard, but I have, in part 2 of this section, I have you pick just 3 values. I know it's not a lot, but there's a reason. There's a lot of overlap between, certain values. And so I think that when you get like super narrow, like I just said, freedom, for example, is one of mine. Like freedom in my schedule, freedom with my finances, freedom, like it can be connected to so much. So I want you to be as like specific as possible. And so I have a giant list in the workbook, if you haven't seen it yet, with like so many different values There's things like peace, stillness, presence, joy, curiosity, self-trust, honesty, authenticity, healing, confidence, self-worth, expansion, learning, intimacy, leadership, innovation, flow, sustainability, beauty, home, rituals, slowness. There is so much in there. So I wanted to give you options to choose from, so you weren't just like, I know for me, I'm like, I need to see them so I can be like, okay, yeah, what are my values? I can't just like make them up. And so after you have gone through the exercise, hey, listen, like I circled a bunch and then I like eliminated from there. And so I would suggest doing that if you're having some trouble. And so after you've picked your 3, and also please don't overthink this part. Like, don't overthink it. Just go with your gut. After you've picked your 3, I want you to journal on, how do I want these values to guide my decisions? Write them down and then keep those 3 words. Maybe it's putting them on your phone screen. Maybe it's putting them on a sticky note in your office. I would highly suggest that, so that you're reminded throughout the year of, as you face things, like, is this connected to what I said my values were? And this might change. And as you go on, you'll be like, actually, I think I'm much more connected to this or that. But regardless, these serve as your roadmap. And so I want you to sort of reflect on that. All right, moving along. Part 3, we're going to be setting gentle intentions. So it's not specifically like goal setting, but it's a form of that. So I think that goals often come with pressure. Again, I think you should still set goals. I think you should still really have a list of like what you want to accomplish. But I think for the purposes of what we're doing right now, I want you to think of more of your intentions this year than goals in this exercise specifically. So instead of thinking like, oh yeah, I have to accomplish X thing by March, what we're creating here is, this is the direction that I'm moving in with this intention, and this is how it feels. And so if you're looking at the workbook, I write, this year I want to expand, ... This year I want to soften, ... This year I want to nurture, and this year I want to try. And I think that, for example, me setting an intention, like, I want to expand things that nourish me. It says I want to soften. I'm like, period. I want to soften. No, but like, I want to soften what feels forced, what doesn't feel aligned for me. You know, I want to nourish myself, the people around me, my inner world, my inner child. And, you know, things I want to try. I want to try having more fun. I want to try things without like attaching some form of like outcome or accomplishment. Maybe that's a new hobby that's just for me, you know? So that's what I want you to reflect on. This type of goal setting is radically different to the traditional goal setting. And I promise that this all lays a foundation for that later step of, here's the checklist of the things I want. All of it informs that goal setting. Okay, part 4 of this section is the easeful planning spread. So I have 3 boxes on the page. It says what I'm moving towards, what I'm open to receiving, and what I'm protecting. And so I want you to ask yourself these questions. Again, this is all rooted in like, what do these intentions feel like? How does this all connect to my vision, to my values? Like, what am I moving towards? I'm moving towards a life that creates spaciousness. And what does that mean? That means I have to reflect on how I make money. That means I have to reflect on how I structure my weeks. That means reflecting on how I want my acting career to feel. What am I protecting? I think that at this point, like, I'm trying to shift more to like protecting rather than the ambition, right? Because I think that like without protection, your boundaries, aka, it costs a lot from you. And so You'll journal through these thoughtfully. And then as we wrap up, the last and final part of this whole series is the 90-day gentle map. So I wanted to create this last section because I wanted it to be, number one, attainable, not overwhelming. And I wanted it to be so much more about like exploration. So this is your permission slip. You don't have to plan the entire year. Your nervous system doesn't, it just cannot live at a year at a time. Like, I just think we're so much more successful. Sure, you can have a general idea of like your overall map for sure. I do it too. But I think that like when we think in shorter spurts of time, it allows us, I think, to see like the smaller steps more clearly. So I want you to zoom in a little bit, and these next 90 days are going to be all about exploration. So I want you to reflect on what would feel good to explore in the next 3 months. This could be like a concrete thing, like a habit or a hobby. Or it can be like a feeling. Then I want you to reflect on one habit or ritual that you want to anchor in. I want you to reflect on one boundary that you want to honor. And what's the one step that you could take towards one dream? So just really hyper focused here. So we're talking one habit, one boundary, and one small step towards your biggest dream. And that's it. That's all I want you to do in this section. I don't want you to go further. I just want it to be that simple. I don't want you to feel like you have to figure everything out right now, because you don't. Now, am I going to still, after doing this, am I still going to like create goals? Am I still going to want to do like a manifestation board, like all of the things? Yeah. And I think you should too. But I think that this creates like the foundation to start the year a little more gently. And it also creates the foundation to, I think, select things on that list that are a lot more attainable and aligned. Okay, and the closing affirmation on this whole series is, I move into the new year with softness, curiosity, and trust. I don't chase, I align. I want to leave you with these last few thoughts, is that you're not behind, you are not late. You're not doing life wrong. You're allowed to choose a life that's quieter if that is what is calling to you. You can be more intentional, more specific, more aligned with your values. You can think more about how things feel, and you don't have to chase that clarity. You don't have to force momentum. You don't have to force your goals, because alignment and all of those things come with clarity when you listen to yourself. All of the dominoes fall into place. Is that a saying? They all fall into place. And so I hope this was helpful. I hope this series was helpful. And take with you what resonates, leave what doesn't. Use what you need from this entire series, and what doesn't help and what doesn't feel aligned, leave it. And I want to hear from you guys. Let me know if you're working through this, if you've been listening, like shoot me a DM. Let me know like what aligned for you, what like didn't align, what felt good, what didn't feel good, like what were your favorite parts? Tell me. I want to hear about it, because like I know I have my favorite parts. I know that like there are certain things that I think brought me clarity. There's certain things that were hard for me. Like I want to hear from you. And I think that I want to say that I'm so grateful that you've chosen to reflect with me, that you've chosen to end the year with me here. Thank you for listening to all the podcast episodes this year. Thank you for coming to our events. Thank you for coming to our retreats. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for sharing. Thank you to all of you, because we are building really something special, I think, here at Life Curious Women, and I'm excited to keep building, but it wouldn't be possible without all of the people that listen, all the people that show up, that believe in what we're creating, that believe in the women that are showing up. You guys are special, and, you know, I'm really grateful to all of you. Yeah. Thank you. thank you for this year. Thank you for all of it. And if this series connected to you in some way, please share with someone that you think would benefit. One of my goals next year is to really expand our community, to really, really grow it. And I can't do that without all of you. And who better to expand this community than the people that are already here? So I appreciate y'all. Thank you. And I'll talk to you next year.